Today against the Seattle Seahawks, we saw quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, Trey Lance, go down with a very bad looking ankle injury. And this was a very scary looking one right from the get-go because immediately after it happened, he was put in an air cast and eventually carted off of the field. Now, right after the injury, there was a lot of speculation as to what was exactly going on with his ankle injury. It looks like the information has come out that he is dealing with a fracture and he's going to require surgery. Now, the exact bones involved in this fracture have not been released to us at this time, but the ankle is of course made up of several different bones, and based on our knowledge of anatomy and the position that his foot and ankle were in at the time of the injury, we can speculate on that. Since people may not be too familiar with the anatomy of the ankle joint as well as the potentially involved ligaments and other structures in that area, I'm going to go ahead and focus on that with today's video. How's it going, sports fans? If you're not familiar with me, my name is Nick Gallo and I'm a doctor of physical therapy. And with my channel, I take a look at sports injuries as well as go over the rehab process so that people can have a better understanding. If you like today's content and you find this informative, please hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel because I will be making more videos in the future regarding sports injuries, rehabilitation, and other physical therapy related content. Also, if you have any comments or questions, please leave those in the comment section below. Now we can see here in the play that Lance got injured on that as he's being pulled down into the turf, we see that his right foot just gets planted very firmly there, and the rest of his body keeps on moving. And this is very dangerous because anytime you have an extremity that is essentially anchored to a surface, whether it be the turf or whether it be another part of a surface, when the body keeps moving, this puts the involved joint in a potentially compromising position. Now, here I have a model of the foot and ankle. And so, of course, the ankle joint is formed with the tibia bone, which is that medial bone right here that we often associate with as the shin bone. That bone is going to come on down and form the medial or inside portion of the ankle. And on the outside here, you have the fibula bone, which is also in the lower leg, but that's going to come down and form the lateral or outside portion of the ankle joint. Then as we look a little bit deeper into the model here, this is a bone known as the talus. And so these three bones, when they are all together like this is going to form that ankle joint. And there are four major motions at the ankle joint. The first one is known as dorsiflexion, with the foot bending up this way. The next one is known as plantar flexion, which is the opposite, where the toes and foot are going to be pointed down this direction. Then as we flip the model here, the other motion that is associated at the ankle joint is inversion, where the foot is going to come on in this way. And finally, that last motion is known as eversion, where the foot is going to be going out this direction. Now, as we take another look at that injury video with Lance's foot being planted here, as he's being brought down further into the ground, we see that that right knee is going to keep on coming forward, and that's actually placing a lot of eversion at the ankle joint here. You can see here that as I move this model, if the foot remains planted into the turf, or if I leave it fixated right here, if I move the rest of the leg, you can see how it separates that medial or inside portion of the joint. Now, when you do this, there are several structures that can be involved. First off, there is a structure there, and it's known as the deltoid ligament. And that ligament gets extremely stressed when you go into these eversion positions like that. This is opposite of the position of a traditional ankle sprain. When a lot of people think of spraining an ankle, it's when their foot and ankle roll in this direction. This is going to be the opposite direction. So it's going this direction, and it's definitely going to be stressing those deltoid ligaments that are located in the medial portion of the ankle. But if that force is great enough, that can put several other bony structures at risk. The structures that can be damaged in excessive eversion are known as the malleoli. And the two malleoli are right in through here. If you feel on your ankle joint there, they're the two bony knobs on both sides. This one is the medial or the inside malleolus, and here you have the lateral or the outside malleolus. Either of these can be compromised in this position. It was released to us that he is dealing with a fracture, so it seems like one is being affected right now. Now, if I had to guess which one was being involved at this time, that would be very difficult to determine because it's compromising for both. So if he's dealing with a malleolar fracture and it is bad enough, this can require surgery, which is where they're going to go in and essentially stabilize everything and put it all back together, which it sounds like he's going to have that, but we're going to need to wait and see if we get a little more details regarding the details of that surgery. One other thing that hasn't really been released to us yet, but he is definite risk for, is an ankle dislocation. And we've seen other players go through this over the years. And it's very dangerous when the foot is anchored here, because if you're getting any type of torsion or any type of twisting force here, you can kind of see that the malleolus there can just pop out of that joint. So that's something else that he's absolutely at risk for. They didn't disclose whether or not there is additionally an ankle dislocation, but that's something that always comes to mind when I see somebody go into that position. Now, whenever somebody requires surgery for a malleolar fracture like that, typically the surgery that's going to be done is something known as an ORIF, which is short for an open reduction internal fixation. And the details of the surgery, essentially what they're going to do is they're putting a plate alongside of the piece of bone that is fractured, and they're going to screw it in with hardware. This surgery is fairly common in a physical therapy practice. We see these quite often. It can happen, of course, among athletes. It can happen among non-athletes. Anytime, once again, that ankle position is essentially beyond its max value, that's when you put those malleoli in compromising spots. So this is something we see very commonly, usually in the beginning for about the first 4 to 6 weeks. This is when a person is going to be non-weight bearing, of course, and you basically are working on range of motion. Up until about that 6th week, when the person can start to weight bear on that foot, we're doing a lot of very gentle movement at the ankle, whether it's done by the physical therapist or done by the patient themselves. And we're also, of course, making sure that we are controlling pain and swelling at the area as well. Between 6 to 12 weeks, this is when we're going to start to get a little more aggressive with our treatment approach. We can start to work on weight bearing. We can start working on more aggressive movements of the ankle, strengthening, things like that. And this is the time when initially the person is going to have a lot of pain because we're doing things that they haven't done in a bit, but over time, things start to progress and things start to get pretty strong. At the end of that 12 weeks or beyond that 12 weeks, that's when we can start to add in sport-specific movements. So for somebody that is an elite football player, you'll take them out to the track or take them out to the field, go over a lot of agility, plyometrics, things like that, just to make sure everything looks very stable with the ankle. Of course, during the entire treatment time, we want to make sure that they're following up with the physician and everything looks good on the x-rays and the MRIs as well. Now, unfortunately for Trey Lance, I've seen these take anywhere between about 6 months all the way up to a full year. I think with him being a professional athlete, it's probably not going to take a full year for him to recover, but it really just depends on how the person heals. Unfortunately, they are already saying that this is going to be a season-ending injury, and that's very possible. It really just depends on how the person follows up and how they do with their follow-up imaging and how they progress with their medical appointments. If I happen to get any details regarding his progression throughout his rehab process, or if there's anything that hits the news regarding his current medical condition, I'll be sure to update everybody in the comment section. And if you happen to hear anything, please let me know as well. And that's it as of right now regarding Trey Lance's most recent ankle injury. I really wish him the best moving forward. This is a very common thing we see in the clinic, but it's something that unfortunately can take a while. Once again, if you like today's video, please remember to subscribe to the channel because I will be making more content like this in the future. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.